You meet a lot of Georgians when you're in Russia, and the food is very special, and it's such an old country, and Armenia as well. So I think that would be a trip I'd like to do. I've been to Japan, but it was with a kind of a delegation, a national security delegation. So I'd like to go back to Japan and maybe do a more proper kind of vacation trip there as well.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. My guest today helps you or could help you feel better when you're traveling. He is the founder and CEO of FlyKitt. And FlyKitt helps travelers safeguard their health. I'm very, very curious about this because I travel a lot and I suffer from jet lag. So I think this may be the day that it's finally over. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Andrew Herr.
Thank you, Elisabeth. It's great to be here.
So let's get straight to the point. What am I doing wrong? Why do I have jet lag?
Well, you're not doing anything wrong unless you think traveling is wrong. But based on work I did for the US military and with some Navy SEAL communities, I was able to discover that the pressure changes in flight, when you take off, it's like climbing an 8,000-foot mountain in 15 minutes. And the lower oxygen environment, when you're in the airplane cabin at cruising altitude, it could be maybe 26% less oxygen than you're used to. Those can cause inflammation in the body. And that helps explain why our gut is off, our joints feel creaky, brain fog, these other things. And it combines with the time change to be the cause of jet lag. And so what we discovered is that if you stop the inflammation and then use these different tools we have, light and supplements and meal timing and sleep timing, we can actually eliminate jet lag for more than 93% of people.
That's amazing. And what you are saying makes total sense because, you mentioned the gut. That's because I used to be a tour guide when I was young and I still travel a lot. And I was never, even when I was traveling every week or sometimes every other day, I was never I never adjusted well. And when you mentioned the gut, that definitely, that speaks to me. So, inflammation in general, of course, is a big word, is a big thing that we all have or try to avoid. So what would be the cure?
So what we figured out is that you have to first block the effects of these pressure changes and the low oxygen. And we do that using supplements. So we figured out that there's a combination you can use of plant-based polyphenols. These are compounds usually called antioxidants, but it turns out that's not how they actually work in the body. They actually tell your cells to increase the protective enzymes and other things they create. So it's like, calling home and saying, everyone get ready. We're gonna throw a party. Like everyone get ready and start going. So good. So now your cells are ready and then we're gonna give actual protection against oxidative stress that comes from these effects using vitamin C. The first one we're gonna use in our product, we use organic pomegranate extract. Has a lot of these polyphenols. And then we're going to give your body compounds that help calm inflammation. So omega-3 fatty acids, and we use a specially purified, specially concentrated form that are going to give your body the precursors it needs to keep inflammation healthy and low. And so now we're managing the inflammation. We also give you recommendations on diet. So for example, for most people, it helps when you're flying to have lower carbohydrate, higher protein, not too many, not fried food, things like that. And so now we've managed the inflammation, and then we can move on to shifting your circadian rhythm. And that's a really neat trick because, let's say you're traveling with a 10-hour time change, something big, going to Asia from the US or halfway around the world to Australia. The trick is, one thing alone, light can help. Everybody's heard get light at daytime in your destination. Good. Melatonin can help. But if you really want to get rid of jet lag totally and sleep well your first night, you've got to put everything together in a concert. And so what that looks like is we use methylated B vitamins, which can push your circadian rhythm forward if you get them with light. We use melatonin to pull your circadian rhythm backward when we need to. We use blue light blocking glasses so that light doesn't shift your circadian rhythm the wrong way at the wrong time and to calm your nervous system before you sleep. We give you the right amount of sleep. You get a custom plan with our program in the app. Because if you sleep too long, you're not going to be able to go to sleep that night. And if you sleep too little, you're going to crash before it's late enough you want to go to sleep. So we're giving you the perfect amount of sleep and meal timing. So when you do it all together and you listen to this concert, I don't know if it's Bach or Chopin or whoever you like. You follow the program in your app. It's very simple. The app and our algorithms customize it all for you. Then we ran a study with Inter Miami, the professional soccer team in the US, where Messi plays. And they did an around the world trip, 5 games, 4 cities, 24 time zones all the way around. And the people who use FlyKitt, the players, saw 94% less travel symptoms. And so that's how effective it can be.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, the things that you're mentioning for the inflammation, the vitamin C, the whatever, all those, how long in advance do you have to take that?
Yeah, this is the real beauty of what we've done. You don't have to do anything before the morning of your travels. So the custom algorithm gives you a wake up time for the day of travel, and then starts giving you the right times to take supplements and to do all these different activities. And that's really the key thing is, supplements can be helpful, but if you take them at the wrong time, they can even be counterproductive. And so the app makes it easy. It just gives you a little notification anytime you need to do something. And between the compounds that we've selected for their high effectiveness and the timing, that's where the magic is.
So this is an app like every other app that you download on your phone.
Yes. So Android and iPhone, it's available for both. And when you download it, you answer like 10 questions about your sleep, about your body, all things, it takes 1 minute to do, all things that everyone can answer. It's simple multiple choice questions. But our algorithm can use those. Plus, then you give us your flight information, and what time you want to be waking up and going to sleep at your destination. And it creates a custom plan so you can fall asleep at that time you want and wake up at the time you want at your destination. And I recognize this might seem a little bit too good to be true. In fact, one of the things we hear very often from our customers is, I was really skeptical, but you had a money back guarantee, so I tried it, and now I'll never travel without it. And the other thing I can say is, I mentioned the study we ran with the professional soccer team that's used by dozens of pro and Olympic teams. So the best are already using this. But there's no reason that even if you're just going on a vacation or a business trip where you want to perform, there's no reason you shouldn't have this level of support too.
Well, the only thing that I can say is that I should have met you 40 years ago and not now.
Well, that would have been before I invented it, and I would have been a little bit too young maybe to try. But basically the reason this hasn't existed till now is this insight into inflammation and air travel. And it was kind of staring us in the face because we know people get blood clots when they fly. Blood clots are an inflammatory process. There's research showing that people get more autoimmune disease relapses after they travel. This is autoimmune disease, obviously inflammation. There's all these pieces of evidence, but no one had yet put it together. And I had these unique opportunities to learn science and to be in a position to figure it out.
So what made you do it? How did you think of it? Or how did you come up with the idea that, okay, obviously I would imagine that you traveled yourself and then realized that we need help here?
I've traveled a lot, certainly. But the actual need came from a client of mine. But after I worked with the military, I was coaching executives to optimize their health. One of them came to me, David said, hey, I go to Asia to close business deals. There's a big business dinner the night I arrive. They want to negotiate at 7 a.m. the next morning. They're using jet lag as a negotiating tool. What should I do? Great. I'll get you a program. When are you leaving? He said Tuesday. I was like, great. It was Sunday. So I had 2 days. I was like, David, I'll get you something tomorrow. And I sat down and put together all my knowledge from the military work and circadian rhythms and performance and working with clients. And I had one of those moments in life where it just all sort of comes to you and you just figure and put it all together all at once. So I give him this program, and it was, a Microsoft Word document that I typed out the instructions with different times and a box of like 4 or 5 bottles of supplements and these very ugly blue light blocking glasses. The ones we have now are much better looking. And I gave it to him. He left. And I got an email 2 days later from Seoul, Korea. And he said, Andrew, what did you do? I just slept 8 hours my first night. And if it hadn't worked that first time, who knows? Maybe I never would have even considered it. But then I kept trying it with other clients and kept developing it. And the thing is, it kept working. And so once it keeps working, you eventually start to believe you have something real. And then over time, we developed it into an actual product that wasn't just me making the plan on a piece of paper, but was we have algorithms and AI that customizes it for you. And so that's where we are today.
That's fantastic, because really it does affect your, even if it's a holiday, it affects your state of being. Because like when I go, for example, when I go west, when I go to the US from here, I just wake up at whatever, 4 in the morning. And because my body tells me it's now morning and you have to get up. So, and you, by the time you actually do get up, you're exhausted, and so you don't really enjoy the first days, even if it's just fun. But especially when you go to a conference or when you go to an exhibition and you have to stand all day, it can be very tiring. So this is a fantastic, fantastic thing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, waking up early can be good or bad, but dinner is often one of the most joyous meals of a vacation. And if you're falling asleep in the soup, that's not helping.
This is so true. I remember times when I went to New York with the kids, and we used to have a little nap in Central Park on a bench. So we managed to stay up until dinner. But yeah, this is definitely something that I am going to try myself. Now, you said you traveled a lot. Let's talk a little bit about your travel. And that was before you invented this thing. Where did you travel? Why did you travel? What did you do?
I've had an opportunity to do a bit of, some people certainly travel more, but some of the bigger trips of my life, I went and I've done about 10,000 miles by train across Russia. I've done not the whole Trans-Siberian route, but most of it. I've done maybe a dozen cities. I studied in Russia in college and learned to speak Russian. And so then I went back and wanted to see the rest of the country. And so I took a month by myself on the train. And of course, when you're in Moscow and St. Petersburg, having a foreigner, an American, isn't that unique. But when you're in the Far East in Siberia, I met a bunch of people who'd never met an American before. And so then I was the guest of honor at somebody's wedding of people I met that day. I had dinner at people's houses. It was really a fantastic trip. 3 summers in a row, I have a brother who's much younger than me. And so 3 summers in a row, we went to Mongolia, then we went to Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and then we went to Iceland and Uganda. So I've had a chance to go to all 6 continents, but Antarctica, and fair amount across different parts.
So that American that they had never seen before, on top of everything, spoke Russian. They must have been shocked.
It was a very strange experience. Of course, I had an accent. I still have an accent, or had an accent. My Russian isn't as good as it used to be, but everybody was lovely. Like, they wanted to talk, they were there to share. But yes, like, there were a lot of questions when I was in the Far East in Siberia, like, what are you doing here? I was like, I just want to see the rest of the country.
Yeah, it's a huge, beautiful, fascinating, and very a country. It has everything as well. A little bit like the US. It has different access to different oceans. It has a lot of mountains. It has a desert. It's definitely very, very fascinating. And you can spend, I don't know how many weeks visiting, and you haven't even seen a fraction of it.
Yeah, for sure. So that's definitely kind of a highlight trip. To speak the language and to be able to interact with people when you're in a location is obviously so special.
Always. And I think I always feel that people take you more seriously when you're not a tourist anymore when you speak their language, even though you're more of a visitor, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And so I could have just deeper conversations. And then crazy things happen. So at one point I met these also tourists at one point, and then 5,000 miles away in a different part of the country, we end up on the same train again. And you just have these like crazy synchronicities, coincidences that happen. And then, of course, there was a Russian army officer who had a bunch to drink, and he then wants to talk to the Germans, and that's getting a little bit heated because they're suddenly now talking about World War II. And I'm the only one who speaks the Germans. One of the Germans speaks English, and I speak Russian. So I'm the only one who can translate actually between the groups. Oh, you never know where you're going to end up.
Did you manage to calm down the situation?
Nobody got too heated, but I think finally the vodka took its effect,
Oh,
and somebody went to sleep, and but it
nobody,
was it was one of those strange experiences.
nobody got hurt.
Not to my knowledge, not while I was there at least.
I was listening to a clip. I don't know, you were on another podcast and you were talking about, I'm coming back to FlyKitt and I want to go back to travel afterwards, but I forgot to ask you that before. Alcohol. One
Yes.
should not drink alcohol because, I like a glass of wine on a flight, but that's probably another one of my problems, isn't it? It's not good.
So FlyKitt helps you either way, but the challenge with alcohol is two things. One, it tends to increase inflammation. We all feel more puffy the next day and bloated. That's inflammation. And two, it makes your sleep worse. And obviously, sleeping on a plane is more difficult, even if you're in business or first class lie flat. Just the noise and the vibration, it's never quite as comfortable. So now, if you give more inflammation from the alcohol and worse sleep, it's just going to make you feel worse throughout that next day. So we do recommend you don't drink alcohol until after you've had a good first night of sleep in your country, but in your destination. But if you're going to, then FlyKitt's in a way almost more important because now if you have the inflammation from flying and the inflammation from alcohol, man, the double hit is very powerful. And so, because the immune system works in exponentials. So if you have and also, of course, if you don't get enough sleep, now you have three inflammatory hits because not getting enough sleep causes inflammation too. And so FlyKitt is like really important if you're going to drink, but we do recommend you don't, but it's not the end of the world.
No, yeah, but I am totally with you because I know I can feel it myself. It may help you fall asleep faster, like you would doze off, but then the sleep is not deep. I mean, it's the same even when you're not on a plane, when you've had,
Sure.
you get tired, you fall asleep, but it's not a good sleep and you wake up earlier.
Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, that's why we recommend. And we do things in your FlyKitt program to make it easier to sleep on a plane. The blue light blocking glasses change your nervous system response and help signal to your brain it's time to fall asleep. Some plans use a lot of melatonin, like 5 or 10 milligrams, which is like really 10,000 times as much in your blood as you would normally have. We use smaller doses just to give you a timing signal to basically tell your brain it's time to start moving towards sleep. And so we use smaller doses that are very effective at helping people sleep on planes as well.
Yeah, that's something that I've only learned. I've never taken any melatonin, but I believe that some people think that you can take melatonin to sleep, but it's not. It may help at that point, but it's not as something that helps you sleep in general.
Yeah, it's more of a signal in your brain. And if you take enough, you'll get drowsy, but then you're going to have it in your blood for hours after you wake up. You're gonna really it's going to mess with your system a lot. So we really do recommend smaller doses. And in fact, in research studies, this is not for jet lag, but at home, in research studies, there's no evidence that higher doses work better than smaller doses for sleeping. So, yeah, that's why we use 1 milligram, 2 milligrams maximum in any program at a time. So that we give you the timing signal, your brain is reset where it needs to be, and that's sort of the optimal way to do it.
So how do people get hold of FlyKitt? When you download the app, do you automatically subscribe to the vitamins and to the melatonin and to the glasses? How does it work? What's the package?
Yeah, so you can buy the physical kit on our website, flykitt.com, and then you can log on to the app directly and you're good to go. Or you can download the app and then purchase through the app is also available. So yeah, so you buy the physical kit and then the app is available for you to use for free. And then we offer refills because you don't need another pair of glasses, for example. So, um, so yeah, that's kind of the model. And yeah, happy to say that we have, every week hundreds or thousands of people using FlyKitt, and yeah, it's really exciting to have something help that many people.
I will put the link for FlyKitt in the show notes so people can find it there and they can order it. Or Otherwise, get in touch with Andrew. I found you on LinkedIn and I found you on Instagram, and we will put those links as well. But coming back to travel, so Russia, okay, why did you go and study in Russia? I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a too personal question, but you don't have
No, I'm happy to answer it. So no, I was going to Georgetown University, Washington, D.C., and the program I was doing in foreign service required that I speak a language to proficiency to graduate. I'm from Los Angeles, so everybody there learned Spanish in high school. Not everybody, but most people, because the most useful language besides English in LA. But I had one of those moments in life where I said, well, what would I do if I didn't do Spanish? Chinese, I don't know, felt too hard. I didn't want to learn the alphabet, the pictograph alphabet, not alphabet, the character set. Arabic, I don't know that I wanted to study abroad in that region personally. Russian, well, I was interested in national security. I had a family, military history, and it just said, you know what, that seems interesting. Why not give it a shot? So I signed up for Russian and ended up studying Russian for 2 years. Then I did a semester in Russia, in St. Petersburg, which is a gorgeous city. And then I did, a year and a half more in undergrad. I did 2 years in graduate school. So I'd spent 6 years studying Russian, plus studied there, went back there 2 other times. And it just it became an adventure in my life. I've never really used it professionally.
Yeah, it's difficult. I started learning. I learned for about 3 years, just lessons. And, my mother tongue is German, so it's much easier for me to learn than it would be for an English speaker because, all those endings, all those cases, those are hard. Especially, because we have 4 cases, the Russians have 6. So for me, it was made more sense. But I always thought for somebody who speaks English, this is tough.
Yeah, it definitely isn't. It's not a thing that's obvious. So that once you learn them, you kind of understand how English works and better because the cases are sort of hidden in our language. But although one thing is interesting is that the Russians used to think Germans spoke Russian very poorly. And so the word for German in Russian means like people who are deaf.
Nemiski. There was a...
Niemcy, like Niemcy is deaf.
Maybe the Germans are a little deaf. That's possible.
Well, I don't know. That's for you to decide.
So, where else? What other places did you visit that made an impression? Okay, Russia was a special experience because you also lived there. But do you have a favorite place in the world?
I'll just rattle off a couple places that I love because of something special about them. I can't say I have a favorite place. In Mongolia, I was in Western Mongolia living for a week with a Kazakh nomad. They train eagles to hunt. And we were on the top of a mountain with these eagles and horses. And between the horses breathing, I had a moment where I was like, I think that might be the first time I've ever heard silence in my life. And just to be in a remote place and have no other noise, no machine noise, it was wild. The energy of people in Vietnam, I absolutely loved. People are hustling but happy, and the customer service is fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I got to spend a few days with people from Vanuatu on one of the islands out there. It was gorgeous. Got to scuba dive off the Komodo Islands in Indonesia. That was where you're right at that kind of intersection between different oceans. And so that you get different different sea life. Yeah, I don't know, I could probably keep going, but I've been to the Amazon twice, and there's something obviously very special about the jungle down there as well.
You have been around the whole globe. It's I had never heard of Vanuatu until I remember when I was doing an Australia round trip, I had a French lady who, I think it's used to be French or I don't know, until a French lady had a ticket to go to Vanuatu. And I thought, where on earth is that? And came across it for the first time. And what you were saying about Mongolia and the silence, it's the same also with the darkness, I think, in places like that where you have no light. What do you call it? Light
pollution, yeah.
Yeah, light pollution. It gets so dark that you see shooting stars every night.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, the wilderness. Also in I mean, talk about the wilderness and just a place where not many people have had the opportunity to go. We were in the desert in Turkmenistan, and there's this just gorgeous red sandstone and these canyons that have been carved out that have these kind of alternate layers of red and white. And there is literally nobody for hundreds of miles. You have to have two Jeeps because if one of them breaks down, like there's no way to call, there's no way to get a hold of anyone. Yeah, it's very special. And thanks to my younger brother, my younger brother is very adventurous and is a wildlife biologist. So he's used to being out in the field, but he's gotten me to do some very adventurous trips in my life.
That's good to have a brother like wildlife. What did you call it?
Biologist.
Wildlife biologist. Yeah, that must be fascinating. He must be going to fascinating places. Yeah. What is next for Andrew Herr? Where are any travels? Any travel plans?
I've been thinking about places that are particularly exciting to me. I'd like to go to Georgia, in the Caucasus. I've always thought, you meet a lot of Georgians when you're in Russia, and the food is very special, and it's such an old country, Armenia as well. So I think that would be a trip I'd like to do. I've been to Japan, but it was with a kind of a delegation, a national security delegation. So I'd like to go back to Japan and maybe do a more proper kind of vacation trip there as well.
Yeah, I think I did a recording with somebody last week who had just recently been to Georgia, and everybody who's been to Georgia tells about how beautiful it is. Very, very green, very beautiful, very, very, very kind people, and another difficult language.
Yeah, that one I'm not going to try. I'll stick with.
I'll
stick with Russian, although depending on, of course, the part of Georgia, I might want to hold back the Russian a little bit.
Yes. Yes. Oh God. Yes. There is always that side too. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think when you start talking to people, and I don't know what your experience is, but there is one thing is people, and then there is other thing. The other thing is politics. I think people are generally, I believe that 90%, 95% of the people in this world are nice. And you can get by, and you can get on, and you can talk to them. But of course, when you start talking politics and when you have a strong opinion about something, then it may go the other way.
Yeah, I think most people in life just want to have a good life and not too much stress, and you can talk to them. It's certainly been my experience. I mean, I talk to people certainly in Russia who have different perspectives, all over the world who have different perspectives. And as long as you're not being belligerent, I think we can have a good conversation. So that's my experience.
So I think we've covered more or less what we wanted to cover. I have this note here, but you mentioned the Trans-Siberian Railway. That was a fantastic experience, I can imagine. Did you experience anything exciting on the train?
I mean, I had all kinds of funny experiences. So the best way for me, because I speak the language, is to go second class. So first class is 2 people in a cabin, 1 bunk on each side. Second class is 2 bunks, upper and lower on each side, so 4 people. And then third class is kind of open with bunks everywhere. Second class is much easier. Third class, you have to watch your stuff more, and it's harder to interact with people. But now you're in a cabin with 3 other people, 2 or 3 other people usually. And so everything from getting invited to dinner on a Russian military base that I decided maybe wasn't a great idea to accept, to people, explaining to me how to make what they call samagon, like moonshine, how to make homebrewed alcohol, and just great discussions. I mean, really, the discussions to me were the most valuable. I had one of my questions I was going through while I was there was, why, for a country that knows the horrors of war as much as any other, Russia, and talks about it, why do they start wars? It's kind of like it's a little bit, and I was there during the Russia-Georgia war when it started. I found out by walking into a little bread shop, and there was a 12-inch black and white TV, and there were tanks rolling, and so I was like, I didn't know what's going on. I started to listen. I could see there was a war starting. And I had the same question asked to me by a Russian on the train thousands of miles apart. And they asked me, I was talking about this question. They said, well, when's the last time you had a war on your own soil? And I thought this was tremendously interesting because, obviously the answer is for the I mean, of course, in World War II, the US got attacked in Pearl Harbor, but really the Civil War. And what I took away from that was they were saying it's worth it to start wars outside the country because you don't want to be invaded or you don't want to have somebody on your border who could. And so that mindset also, to have those conversations really has helped me understand, I think, the last 15 years and at least have an insight into what the Russians might be thinking and why they might make decisions. And I'd studied Russia in university, and I just think I got, in some ways, more insight by being there and talking to people than I did in very, supposedly some of the best classes in a university. So yeah, that to me is the pragmatic nature of just talking to people is so special.
I think it always is. And, books and classes are theory, but speaking to people is the real thing, isn't it? And hearing their stories and their experiences and whatever. We've come to the end, Andrew. I just want to give you like a minute of telling people why they should buy FlyKitt.
Here's the thing. If you don't want jet lag, which is almost everybody, then your question is probably like, well, can I trust that this thing is real? And my answer is, if it doesn't work for you, we just give you your money back. So you have no risk. And the results are incredible. We've had, tens of thousands of FlyKitts sold now. You can see that we have, 4.8 stars on our website. Really, I want you to feel better on your trip. And jet lag really is a choice at this point. So please give it a try. Compared to the cost of even a one night in a hotel room, it's going to be much cheaper than that. So give it a try. And then also we've just launched what we call FlyKitt Domestic, which is, you might not have the same time changes when you have shorter flights, but you do have the same altitude and pressure change issue. And so now you can feel great when you get off a normal flight as well, a shorter flight. And so please give it a try. If you have any questions, email through our website. And if you ask for me, our customer service people will get me the email and I'll respond to you. But it's really special and we're really here to help people. And so my hope is people will give it a try, especially because there's no risk.
Fantastic. And I am so glad that you took the time to talk to me today. Thank you so much for being on Most Memorable Journeys, Andrew Herr.
Thank you so much. It's been great to be here, Elisabeth. Have a beautiful day.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.